Welcome to Besiege Bots, the real home of robotic combat in Besiege. In this episode, we find the final 4 members of the beetleweight quarterfinals and say goodbye to another 4 bots. In our opening contest, we see Style and Substance Robotics, who with a win will be looking at their best tournament placing to date, but to get there they have to get past the rookie team, Team Teamless. Later, in the main event, we see Frogment Robotics trying to get back towards a title by taking on a foe they've already faced once in this tournament in a fight that did not go well for them, taking on Incinerator from Team Dangerous Purposes. Just the Tip enters this fight off a strong Rumble performance where they were able to outlast their fellow spinners and pick up a KO over Manny the Lizard. In this fight, Style and Substance Robotics go from fighting other spinners to a control bot and will be hoping that the reliability of their weapon holds up and is able to score a KO or decision win. Porygon B fought back from a disappointing loss in its Rumble to claim a strong victory over misguided patriotism in the redemption round. In this fight, the rookies Team Teamless have a tough opponent who they likely won't be able to clamp unless they can break the spinner, but they'll still be looking to rack up control and win a decision. And we're on the way with fight number 1 of episode 12 as we have Style and Substance Robotics. If they win this fight, will end up in their highest placing that they've ever gotten in a Besiege Bots tournament against the rookies, Team Teamless, who are looking to make the quarterfinals in their first ever tournament, which would be quite an accomplishment. So we see them getting bounced away early by Just the Tip. They're trying to find the right height to run their lifter at to optimally bounce Just the Tip away from them. They're not sure whether to go with the nose down or the lifter slightly up. I think they're actually trying to grab, but there's not really much for them to grab. Even if Just the Tip was spun down, it would be a very difficult bot to grab just because of the shape of it. Just the Tip is a very slow bot, which you can kind of see from when it drives around. It's also kind of weirdly weighted. It sits quite high up, so the spinner has to be angled quite a bit downward to run close to the ground. As just a couple hits ago takes a flying block off of Porygon B, which will hopefully make things easier for them, bounce Porygon B further on these hits. Just the Tip quite heavy as well, as they've used some extra blocks to use water cannons to weigh the bot down. And also add some extra weight to the spinner, so that it hopefully gives it a bit more oomph. As it is technically classed as a shell spinner, which means it has to run at a reduced speed compared to a standard horizontal spinner. Ooh, they got up onto the ramrods there. That could have been very risky. Could have resulted in an explosion if they weren't careful. Though, Just the Tip is very reliable compared to a lot of other spinners. I believe it's only exploded once in testing as they take the prong off of Porygon B there. I always forget Porygon B's name. That's why I always pause before I say it. Oh, nice little lift attempt there. They've still got the lifter on. Just the Tip is slowly chipping away at Porygon B. They're probably losing in the control category and maybe even aggression, but that is kind of how Just the Tip has to operate. It's very hard to damage it, but it'll reliably deal a decent amount of damage. So it's really about how much damage it can deal without giving up too much control and aggression. So it'll be interesting to see how the judges end up scoring this if it does indeed get that far. As Porygon B bumps Just the Tip into the wall there, which is good for them. Just the Tip really not going too far on these hits. They're actually chasing down Porygon B pretty well. This has honestly been a pretty good fight for Style and Substance Robotics. I definitely think they're winning the fight, but you never know with how the judges end up scoring control and aggression. Because even 196 could potentially tip the balance in favor of Porygon B, since damage at this stage might only result in a 6-4. We'll have to see, though. Another nice hit from just the tip. Few nice hits. As Porygon B comes in. And that's going to be time. Definitely have to see how the judges saw that one. And Porygon B wins control aggression. 8-2 on damage for just the tip. That seems egregious. 7-3 I could see, but 8-2 is egregious. But just the tip ends up winning the judgment. 24-21, moving on to the quarterfinals, while Porygon B is eliminated. Lil Spook had a very fun fight with a Mocha in the redemption round, where they managed to survive a Mocha exploding and find their way back into the arena after being stuck on the high wall. In this fight, Team Angry American will be looking to pick up another KO, but hopefully this time on their own terms. Blood Crypt looked a bit shaky in its rumble before a perfectly placed hit allowed it to KO Get Froggy, which helped it win a decision. In this fight against an undercutter in Lil Spook, Team Night Slash will need more precision hammer driving to disable their opponent's weapon to try and win by KO or decision. And we're on the way with fight number 2 now, as we get Lil Spook against Blood Crypt, the spinner against the hammer, Team Angry American versus Team Night Slash. So our American teams, Team Night Slash have had pretty decent success in the lower weight classes. Blood Crypt made the quarterfinals of Beetleweight Bash, and then they also made the quarterfinals in Antweight Armageddon, which was our last tournament before this, while Team Angry American, I don't believe, have ever made it beyond the round of 16. So if they can win this fight, it would be their first time going to the quarterfinals, and they've gotten off to a pretty good start. They're hitting around Blood Crypt pretty well. Blood Crypt failing to really find an opening to use the hammer. Lil Spook running the spike setup, which... ooh, and that's the problem with the spike setup. I couldn't have timed that much better, to be honest. Yeah, the spike setup is capable of actually breaking off, which is obviously not good, as it reduces their bot's reach and kind of just it hurts the damage potential as well, because the lowered reach gets less power to the tip of the weapon. So definitely not good for Lil Spook, but he's maintained control for right now. They've done alright so far, but they kind of went off the ramrods there. Blood Crypt actually lands a hit there. Didn't accomplish anything, but they did land a hit. We've seen in its previous fights that Lil Spook's little wheel connectors can be a little bit frail. They do have a tendency to be able to be broken off. So we'll definitely have to look out for that in this fight, as if Blood Crypt can land a good hit on those back wheel connectors, it probably can snap a wheel off. Lil Spook probably going to be... Team Angry American probably going to be kicking themselves for bringing the spike setup. I feel like they just wanted to show off the spike setup in a fight that they thought they could win fairly easily. And it's kind of backfired on them, because they probably will end up losing damage now, unless they're able to deal some damage to Blood Crypt as the fight continues. As they're struggling to kind of line up. It's a little harder for them to drive upside down. Ooh, can they flip it back over? They managed to get back over. Good work there from Team Angry American, as Blood Crypt almost kind of threw itself toward the wall there. I don't know how close that was to being an Uda. Gotta be careful near this other pit now. Don't want to potentially throw themselves out of the pit either. Blood Crypt has not been too active with firing the hammer. They went for a hit there, but missed. They've had a lot of trouble. The few times they have managed to get hits, they just haven't really done anything, as they're hitting that front segment, which is quite sturdy. Okay, some good hits from Little Spook as we come into the final 10 seconds. We'll have to see how the judges see this one. But I'd say control and aggression probably go towards Little Spook. So we'll see. It looks good for Team Angry American, I think. As they win control and aggression, lose out on damage and style. Ooh, it was very close, 23-22, but Little Spook does move on to the quarterfinals, the first time for Team Angry American. Congratulations to them, and commiserations to Blood Crypt, who is eliminated from Summer Slammathon. Disgust comes into this match having decisively beaten Arena Hazard in the redemption round on a clean judge's decision. Team Locrian find themselves against a similar foe with heavy front armor in this fight and hope the experience from the Arena Hazard match will give them the advantage to pick up a KO win. Got Plate won its Rumble with a close decision over Brown Recluse. Ram Van Robotics will want to keep the front armor pointed at the spinner of Disgust and do as their name suggests and ram them until the spinner breaks so they can score a KO or decision win. Now we get into fight number 3 as a quick charge out of the gate from Got Plate. Got Plate's kind of built to take on spinners, so theoretically this should be a good matchup for Got Plate. But Disgust has a surprisingly big spinner for beetleweight, so they might be able to reach around that plate and kind of get at the wheels, which would definitely not be good. Ooh, Got Plate kind of oversteered a little bit there. They get a nice ram off there. Ooh, nice little throw from Disgust as they hooked in behind that plate. And they did it again there, but they threw themselves in the wall. They do have to be careful about that. And the ramrods, because they can potentially explode and end up losing this fight by KO, which they definitely don't want. Ooh! They got in behind the wedge again, and they managed to snap one of the wheel stacks off of Got Plate. That's definitely going to put things more in their favor, as that has a decent amount of Got Plate's weight in it. Is in those back segments near the wheels. And because Got Plate is so fast, once it loses one side of its drive, it gets quite difficult to control. Though the driver is doing a pretty good job currently. I'd say Disgust is at a pretty big advantage though. Team Locrian looking like they might make another quarterfinals. They made the quarterfinals of Mint Chocolate and what was their other War Games in Spring Bash Cup. Ooh, another little hook in behind the wedge there. Ooh, they're trying to line up a hit onto that last remaining wheel. If they can break that wheel off, I'm pretty sure Got Plate won't be able to drive. Ooh, another big throw. So we move into the second half of this fight. Disgust definitely landing some good hits. It's pretty much been all Disgust since they broke that wheel off. A wheel stack, I should say. Because if some of the cogs remained, it might have been a bit more stable to drive. Ooh. Ooh, and they take the wheel off. I don't think Got Plate can drive anymore. I don't think the cogs are touching the ground. Yeah, it doesn't look like the cogs are going to be able to do it, and that's the fight. Disgust wins by KO. You can see it doing a funny little dance there. So Team Locrian move on to the quarterfinals, and Got Plate is eliminated from Summer Slammathon. Flip McGee bounced back in its last fight with a decisive win via pit KO over Maker. In this fight, Frogment Robotics will be out for revenge against the very bot that plunged them into the redemption round in Incinerator, and they're hoping in a one-on-one scenario their superior driving will give them the edge. Incinerator showed off just how powerful its flipper is in its rumble by launching both opponents well over the arena walls. In this fight, they find themselves in a rematch against Flip McGee, one of the bots from that same rumble, and will be looking to score a repeat performance and move on to the quarterfinals. And now we're into the main event for episode 12 as Incinerator goes for a massive flip right off the bat. We saw these two bots battle it out in the rumble. Ooh, if Incinerator got that flip under the main body of Flip McGee, I think they would have got the Uda pretty easily. Ooh, they're trying to line up to get a flip in. It'll be interesting to see how this rematch goes from the Rumbles, because Flip McGee only having to worry about one opponent means Incinerator's not going to have chances to get in behind as often as they did in the Rumble. They're going to have to make those chances as they get a good flip, but it breaks their blade off into Flip McGee. As Flip McGee now can't fire its own flipper because it's jammed partially with the blade of Incinerator being stuck in there. Oh, it seems to be working its way out, or it's at least in a position where it's not going to cause as much issue. Ooh, but the flipper on Flip McGee breaks, possibly because of that blade being jammed in there. Flip McGee losing its flipper is definitely not good for it. But losing that blade might be even worse for Incinerator because they don't really have a good way to out-wedge Flip McGee now, which still has good side wedgelets that aren't attached to the flipper. As Flip McGee getting a nice push in, it's doing a good job controlling thus far. Incinerator really got a couple flips early, but then one of those flips ended up breaking off their own blade, and they're probably ahead on damage, because it's kind of the whole flipper arm on Flip McGee that's broken off. I'm not entirely sure why they don't just cut the winches. That is a feature, I believe, that we have added, where you can manually cut your own winches. Oh, there they go. Finally they did it. So now that top segment's out of the way, they're going to be a pretty difficult to deal with push bot now, as their downforce really helping them get under and just stay under Incinerator. This is not looking good for Team Dangerous purposes. They're being controlled very heavily. Wow, this was unexpected. I was expecting an Uda or a Pit KO in this one, but both flippers broke pretty early on. All due to that one flip from Incinerator, which is very unfortunate. But I think it absolutely plays into Frogment Robotics' strength, which is their driving skill. Now they just have a very good wedge bot, and Incinerator has a useless flipper that can't get under anything. Unless they manage to get behind Flip McGee, which I just don't think they can, because Flip McGee has good turning speed. And now they're not weighed down by that top piece either, dragging on the floor. It's going to be very difficult for Incinerator. More pushing. The control's really been all for Flip McGee. I think we're going to see Frogment Robotics take a decision unless something catastrophic happens and Incinerator gets behind them. Ooh. Ooh, they almost did there. If they could have, they might have been able to get an Uda, because the flipper is still working on Incinerator. It can still launch things if it gets something onto the flipper arm, but that's time. I think this is going to be pretty decisive for Flip McGee. They'll lose on damage, but yeah, they lose on damage and style, but they win heavily on control and aggression for a 24-21 decision. Frogment Robotics make yet another quarterfinals, and Team Dangerous Purposes unfortunately eliminated in the round of 16 in a bit of an upset. That's it for this episode. Our 4 bots heading into the quarterfinals are just the tip. Lil Spook, Disgust III, and Flip McGee. Unfortunately, we also have to say goodbye to Porygon B, Blood Crypt, Got Plate, and Incinerator. In the next episode, we will complete the Super Heavyweight Bracket quarterfinals. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing. If you're interested in joining our community, follow the Discord link in the description. From everyone in the Besiege Bots Discord, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.